Hello my friends, thank you very much for clicking on this video. I just wanted to tell you a very true story. Something very strange that happened to me on the death of my mother back in 2009. Every time I tell this story, the hairs stand on the back of my neck. My mother was a good woman, lovely woman, done everything for anyone. Anything she could do, she'd do it. But sadly she passed away from cancer in 2009. So we were all up in the house, our family home, open coffin. And I was just staring at her in the coffin the day before her burial. And I always remember my mother absolutely loved roses all my life since I was a child. She had the whole backyard covered in roses, every colour under the sun. But the one thing she could not do, for some reason, I don't know why, she could not grow a purple rose. So looking in at her in that coffin, it just came into my head, wouldn't it be lovely just to get one purple rose and lay it on her chest before she goes into the ground. So I went outside the house that night. The house was full. Family, friends. I got on the phone. I rang every florist, flower shop within a 20-mile radius. But no luck. Nobody had a such thing as a purple rose. So I was kind of disgusted a little bit. So the next day, I had 3 uncles home from England for the funeral. And things were a little tight with money. You know, to me anyway, you're always kind of broke when a certain thing comes up in life. But anyway, I had a car, so I decided to bring my 3 uncles up to Tesco'S in Clonmel, just to buy black jackets, black pants, white shirt, cheap clothes for the funeral. Back then you get the whole lot for about €30. So we went up to Clonmel. I drove the 3 uncles up to Clonmel. We went into Tesco'S. This is a true story, as sure as my mother is over in the grave. We went into Tesco'S, got a few bits and pieces, black jackets, black pants, whatever, shirts, ties. Went through them express checkouts, whatever you call them. You pay for the stuff yourself, you know what I'm on about. But anyway, just as I was heading towards the door, coming out, and I seen this old lady with a little stall inside the door. Ornaments, flowers, little bits and bobs. So something made me stop. True as God, something made me stop and talk to this woman while my 3 uncles walked out the door towards the car. And as I was talking to this old lady, lovely old lady, right behind her on the back shelf. I could not believe what I was looking at. On its own, there was a purple rose inside in a lovely little vase. So I said to the old lady, "How much are you looking for the rose? How much does it cost?" And she said, "I'm sorry, sir, but that's not for sale. It's just for show." So I was thinking and thinking and thinking, and then I told her my story, that my mother was after passing away. And the one thing she always wanted, down through the years, was a purple rose. This is unreal. So in a couple of seconds, the woman took the rose off of the shelf and handed it to me. I said, "Are you sure now?" She said, "Yes." "How much?" I said. She said, "Give me £2, €2. I was absolutely over the moon. Raced back home with my 3 uncles in the car, walked into the house, proud as a peacock, and done exactly what was after coming into my head. I'd placed that rose, purple rose, on my mother's chest in that coffin. And I said to all the family, sisters, brothers, everybody, do not touch that rose. That rose is going down in the ground with her. And that was that. Right, so we had our funeral the next day. Very, very sad. But here's the kicker, right? And this is true as God. And believe me, I believe in God. I would not lie about my dead mother. About 2 weeks later, myself and the missus and the kids, we went up to Clonmel to the same Tesco'S to do a bit of shopping. And I walked in, and the first person I met was an old friend of mine. He was head of security. I trained this man probably 6 years before that in security. And we were walking along, Jerry was his name. We were walking along, myself and Jerry, and I was telling Jerry the story about coming up to Tesco'S 2 weeks ago and how amazing was it to meet this old lady inside the door with a stall selling bits and bobs, and just happened to have a purple rose. Well, Jerry, big man, big Northern Ireland man, turned around and looked at me. And his jaws just dropped. And he stared into my eyes. And he said, "Kenny, that couldn't have happened." I said, "What do you mean, Jerry?" He said, "You couldn't have meeting an old lady inside the door with a stall selling stuff, because that's strictly against Tesco policies." I said, Jerry, look, listen to me. I was talking to the woman. I was talking to the old lady. My three uncles seen her. I bought the rose, the purple rose, off of this old lady before I went outside the door. He said, Kenny, there's no way in the world. It's impossible, he said. I'll tell you what I'll do, he said. I'll bring you upstairs to the control room where all the cameras are. I gave him the exact date, the exact day that I was after bringing my three uncles up to Tesco'S. He played back the footage and he seen the four of us going through the self-service, paying for our stuff. He seen me stopping. I was looking at this on the camera. He seen me stopping at the door as my three uncles walked out. But there was no stall there. There was no old lady. How can you figure that one out, lads? Be fair now. That's probably the scariest thing that ever happened to me in my life. Every one of my family witnessed me putting that purple rose on my mother's chest that evening. And I told him the story. It was just by luck. I was after coming across it up in Tesco'S in Clonmel. So what do you think? That has to be 1 in a million, 1 in a billion. Because as far as Tesco'S and the security, there was never ever anybody inside that door. Since the shop opened, never. Totally against our policy. But I met that old lady that night. I was talking to her. She had a little stall. I bought the rose. That is the weirdest thing that ever happened to me in my life. Swear to God. Maybe some things are just meant to be. I don't know. True story, lads. I like to tell true stories, and a lot of things have happened to me through my lifetime, but nothing like that. So, it'd be nice to know what you think. I hope you watch the video till the end, because it's absolutely mind-blowing. To be honest, I keep thinking about it. Keep thinking about it. The last 16 years, I've always, and the people I've told that story to, I actually bought flowers for my mother's grave a month ago. It was her anniversary in the flower shop in Carrick, where I'm living. And as the woman in the shop was getting the bouquet ready, I just started to tell her the story of that day in Tesco'S. That woman still looks at me to this day, totally astonished. She'd never heard that like it in her life. Just a true story, folks. I thought I'd share it with you. I'd like to hear what you think about it. Very strange. Very strange. Anyway, take care, stay safe, be well. Love from Ireland. Over and out, Kenny.